Greetings and welcome, everyone, to the Beers and Bodyslams podcast. Sitting across from me, he's the white stuff, baby, in the middle of my Oreo. Good old JB.
What the hell?
I'm
Weird Al Yankovic.
I know what it is, but that was weird.
Whatever.
Sitting to my left, he is the man who is tied with Bray Wyatt for the most pay-per-view wins this year, Mr. Fluffy.
No, I have way more than he does. Way more than he does. And I just started winning.
But you don't have as many losses as Kurt Hawkins.
I meant physical wrestling match victories.
Oh, really?
You guys are both tied with 0.
Yeah, no, he's won. I think he's won one. Maybe. And sitting across from me, he is the seeds on my raspberry. Irish. Took him out of my teeth. Look him across the room.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Oh, boy.
We have a great show for you today. We've got a really good beer that we're going to talk about. And what we're talking about as our subject for today is we're talking about wrestlers who maybe didn't live up to their expectation. Maybe had good careers, but not great careers. Maybe were who had a career that will be remembered, but not a legendary career. So
but had potential to have more.
Super potential, maybe did not live quite up to it. So we're going to talk about that, the beer, so much more. We come right back.
Awesome!
This is the Beers and Bodyslams podcast
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
with your host, Mr. Fluffy,
Hello, ladies.
good old JB,
Booty-O's! They make sure you ain't booty.
and the Irish O'Leary.
There's only one word to describe you, and I'm gonna spell it out for you. A-A-W-S-T!
This is the only podcast bringing you craft beer and pro wrestling that really matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, E-Generation X proudly brings to you its WWL Tag Team Champion of the World, the Road Dogg Jesse James, the Badass Billy Gunn, the new.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
All right, Fluff, what we drinking, bro?
We are drinking from Trader Joe's because apparently Trader Joe's knows how to import beer.
Huh?
The sour Framboise.
Or Framboise.
Framboise. There's a couple different ways. It is a.
There's really only
There's
one
no
way.
one way to pronounce it.
I'm
You just
sorry.
can't.
I know.
It's not a potato, but
It's tomato. It is an oak aged in oak feuder, which means it's an open air fermentation. It is a raspberry sour imported from Belgium.
That's a raspberry.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it is good, actually. It's
It was
really
aged
good.
for 24 months in barrels, added with fresh raspberries. It's really good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's the first hit of the sour kind of punched all of us right in the throat. But then after we got accustomed to it, it's actually really, really phenomenal.
Yeah, I
to be
mean,
honest with you.
it's really. I say we've had a couple of Trader Joe beers on here, and I buy them and wondering how they're going to be, and I've been yet to be disappointed in any of their special mixes, or they have a really good relationship with some of these breweries to get some of these really interesting combinations.
it's weird because you bring me beers that flavor profiles that I don't even like. So
But-
I don't like coconut, but I love like Last Snow,
Okay,
and I don't like raspberry.
okay,
But I like this beer.
Yeah,
It's weird that I won't like
messes with your mind.
eat that stuff, but like some of these beers I can drink and actually like.
yeah. It's got a good raspberry flavor. It's another beer that it'd be hard to pair with anything though. I can't think of what you would pair this with.
Nothing.
Like
Nothing.
maybe cheese. Like
Yeah.
this would be
That's way too strong.
Cheesecake,
no, not cheesecake.
raspberry cheesecake.
Raspberry. Ooh. Well, maybe I'll offset some of the sourness with sweetness.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, it's not that sweet.
but thank you
All right.
so much. We are talking about wrestlers that just never lived up in our eyes to some of the potential they had, or just sort of had good careers, but just never really got 100% over.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and start. And my first one,
John Cena.
no, is no Chavo Guerrero.
Oh,
Chavo.
Chavo. You know,
There you
part of his
go.
problem was obviously when you're
Eddie's nephew.
Eddie's cousin.
Eddie's nephew, it's
nephew.
What he's
and
nephew.
not even that. It's even beyond Eddie. When your name is Guerrero and the dynasty that comes around it, it's hard to live up to it. But he had good ring skills. You know, in WCW, he was good. When he came over to WWE, he was good, except when he was Kerwin White. Oh my God.
His worst gimmick segment coming soon on the podcast.
His best moments.
Write that down.
Yeah, his best moments were definitely when he was lying, cheating, and stealing with Eddie, and they were the Guerreros for a while. But he just never got over without Eddie. He never could get. I mean, he had some good matches, but he never went anywhere.
Yeah, it's funny because Rey Mysterio Jr. went over better.
Yep.
After, I mean, not that you're trying to leverage the death of a great wrestler,
No,
but
no.
it seemed to me like
That springboarded his
Chavo
career.
should have been the person.
Chavo should have been the one, but it actually more was Eddie when
Ray.
It was Ray when Eddie passed away.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of weird. But you know, Chavo's done really well. I mean, I've watched him a few times when he was on Lucha Underground, but he's just not.
He never had the charisma.
No, he doesn't.
To sustain a top level run. He was always seen as Eddie's nephew.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, just that moniker alone kind of puts him below.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's looked at as a secondary Guerrero, unfortunately. I did love him in WCW.
I was laughing the secondary Guerrero. Like it's,
well, I mean,
it's tiers of Guerreros.
I'm thinking about it. You have Eddie's on the main event level.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And Chavo's not seen on that level. So it's a secondary tier. He's looked at differently.
Yeah.
He's a minor Guerrero.
But
He's
like,
a minor Guerrero.
family.
He was funny though. He had
Oh, yeah.
I remember in WCW. What was the name of that damn horse he used to come out on Irish?
Oh,
Is it Pepe?
Pepe. He used to ride that damn horse. That was some of his best work, in my opinion, was when he was in WCW.
And he was part of the LWO, wasn't he?
Yep.
He was when he rode the lawnmowers.
What a crap that was. We're talking about crappy ass gimmicks.
We got a list.
Now we'll go back to crappy gimmicks. We talk about Kerwin White, but Kerwin White gave us Dolph Ziggler in a way because that was his caddy was Dolph Ziggler.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
You talk about setting a bro up for failure.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's a good thing that boy can sort of
And
wrestle.
I think that was after the Spirit Squad, or was it before the Spirit Squad?
That was before.
Oh, God, I don't know.
So wait,
I actually during that time I was.
I
not
don't
a
know
fan.
then. So either Ziggler went
I didn't watch any.
caddy Spirit Squad really good, or Spirit Squad caddy
Well,
Dolph Ziggler.
Following the thought process of Caddyshack, you start out as a caddy, then you're saving up to go to college, and when you go to college, you become a cheerleader, and then you graduate, and you're no longer, what was his name, Mikey?
Yeah,
Mikey.
All
Yikes!
right. So that's my first one of the a guy
good
that
for you.
Yeah, all right.
Good for you.
Good for you. It's a hell of a good start, brother.
JB.
It was. I wasn't expecting that one. Mine is the total package, Lex Luger.
One of my least favorite wrestlers of all time.
He actually, I liked him when I first got into wrestling because he had the look.
Yep.
Like this guy is like Mr. Universe, he had like the 6'4", ripped. He had a football background, so he was, he had the sports background. He came in. You just thought this guy was like, if you were building a wrestler, this is what you wanted him to look like.
If you were designing a pro wrestler,
And then-
this is what he would look like, not Randy Orton.
And he was raw. Like, I remember his early days, he kind of really didn't have any direction. Then they put him with the Horsemen. So they tried to build him into a star. Lex's problem was he wasn't really great on the mic.
Nope.
That was probably his downfall.
Yeah.
His matches were so-so, but they always put him with the Flairs, the Stings,
Well, that's the problem.
Dusty Rhodes. They always had him with people that he should have been able to keep up with.
But he couldn't keep him. That was part of his problem. That's part of the reason I never enjoyed a lot of his matches. I felt like he couldn't keep up.
They were all the same.
Yeah, he couldn't
Like
hang
all
with
his
a
matches
Sting or a
looked,
Flair.
they all looked the same though.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I always thought that Lex Luger looked like what you would a Bigfoot would look like if you took it and shaved it and dyed it blonde.
Wow.
That's what I always thought a Bigfoot would look like. Because I remember when he showed up on that episode of WCW Nitro when they were in the mall.
Oh, when he came back.
First episode, and it was like, who's that? Oh my God, that's Lex. That's Lex Luger.
Yeah.
Like,
He doesn't even work here.
Big freaking deal, dude. You know, he's Sting's best friend. And that was really his downfall. He was Sting's best friend.
Yeah, that was wrong.
You know.
Well, that and when he was in WWE the first time, the whole narcissist gimmick, and he came in during that whole your job is your gimmick kind of period.
Yeah.
Because he was the narcissist. He was a bodybuilder.
Wasn't he with Sherry? Or was he by himself?
No, he was by himself. But do you remember that weird? Do you remember his weird entrance where he would stand in the ring and they had the mirrors?
Yeah.
And the light would shine on the mirror and light him up.
But you know what? That gimmick was better for him than that Lex Express.
Oh, the Lex
crap.
Express was horrible. Against Yoko, that was the whole Yokozuna.
Because Vince decided he wanted to try and turn him into Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
After Hogan left.
And it didn't work.
He wanted him to be the new face of the company.
Can you do a leg drop?
He never had that charisma
No,
to play that role. And I actually thought he was going to beat Yokozuna that year and win the title, and they were going to try it. And
You're the torture rack, though.
When he lost that match, I was like, man, this Joker, he's done. Like they built him up like no other that I can remember that quickly, because he wasn't a WWE guy. So to come in and he's Lex Express, he slammed him on the carrier. I'm like, oh my God, like he's Mr. America. Mm-hmm. And then he loses at SummerSlam. What the hell?
It was
like he's supposed to win.
Yeah.
I think that was like my first time predicting matches on pay-per-view. I was like, he's going to kill it. Like, he's going to win. Like, Lex is going to win easily.
Plus, maybe I hold a grudge of the fact that he was with Miss Elizabeth when she passed.
Oh, man.
There's all kinds of questions.
There's all that crazy stuff.
There's all that crazy stuff going on. So maybe I hold that against him too.
I liked Lex, but he just never exceeded my expectations, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
Irish?
I think my first guy we kind of talked about, who was a guy that I was really into and still am, because he's carrying himself very well. He's leading a very good post-wrestling performer life. Now he's backstage. Is Dean Malenko, man of 1,000 holds.
But he was taught by a man of 1,001.
That's
so
true.
Good, yeah.
Dean was part of the Radicals. Dean was a horseman. Dean was always a solid wrestler. I would watch Dean Malenko matches. I'll still watch a Dean Malenko match. He's black trunks, no smiling, tape wearing dude. Didn't talk very much. When he talked, it wasn't all that great. There were times where he would give impassioned promos that were actually not horrible. His time in WCW,
he was just very dry.
He was one note,
very one note,
and that was he came up in the gimmick era.
Yeah,
and the fact that he didn't really have one. That kind of hurt him, because people weren't really concerned with what you could do in the ring.
Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that was, at the height, it was during the Attitude Era, and at that time, if you didn't have the character to draw people in, you never really made it. On wrestling ability alone, I can't really name 10, 20 guys better than him.
Yeah, could you imagine
ever come through? You know what I mean?
Can you imagine what if we could figure out how to do time machines, putting him against Daniel Bryan, Kurt Angle back in the day, guys, AJ Styles,
the wrestling purist in us. Yeah,
I mean, just he was way ahead of his time from a wrestling standpoint.
Yep.
But you're very accurate when you say I hadn't thought about that. He's very one note, but I still really liked him. But he never really lived up to the full potential. He never he gone.
New slang for potential.
In my new rap, I had to get something to rhyme with.
All the kids are saying that.
With yo, full potential. Anyway, none of the Radicals ever met, the same success as Eddie, or, none of them met the same as Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dean's my guy. I love Dean, still respect him. The few times I see him when he pops on camera, I get, oh man, a Dean Malenko sighting.
I love any horseman not named Paul Roma. So there'll always be a special place in my heart for Dean Malenko.
Paul Roma, you suck.
You are the worst thing to ever happen. We're striking you from the record books.
So I'm going to give you one. This one you might say he lived his potential, but I think he had so much more, and I think it was a victim of who he was associated with more than him. Was Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson was a great worker.
You are correct.
Mm-hmm.
But his problem was he was always attached to the Horseman and Flair, which means he had a ceiling he couldn't get past.
Exactly.
You're actually right.
Arn by himself would have been a superstar because he had everything. He could talk, he could kick your ass, he could have interesting stories in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
But he was so tightly packed with Flair that, and it was even when he came over with Tully Blanchard to be the Brainbusters in WWE originally, he was still a tag team.
Yeah.
Right.
He never got that single opportunity.
One of the greatest talkers ever.
Oh
by the
yeah,
way.
but when you're
Who, Arn?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the problem is when you're one of the greatest talkers and you're against one of the
best talker.
the best talker, one of the if not the top two of all time, you can be fourth. And you're still outshined by this guy yelling and screaming.
But it just goes to show why the Four Horsemen are so legendary.
Yeah.
I mean, look at who was there. You had talkers, you had fighters, you had everything in that group. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's I'm saying I just felt like I've always loved Arn.
He didn't have the flash. He kind of fell into that Dean Malenko scenario. He didn't have the flash.
Yeah, I agree.
He was the blue collar of the group. He did the dirty work. So he never really was seen as a leader.
Yeah.
Even when they broke up and he tried to do his own thing, he was always Ric Flair's best friend.
Yep.
A part of a group, part of a tag team. He never, he had the TV title, but that was, I think, the biggest title that he had as a singles wrestler.
Yeah, I think that was it. And then, but you get excited when you see him. Like when he showed up on the Fashion Files a couple weeks ago, we all were like,
legendary.
Oh my God,
it's Arn Anderson.
It's Arn Anderson. I'll tell you one of the most excited times, Little Irish, excuse me. Little Irish got, I was going to make a crack about you earlier, Little Fluffy. One of the most exciting times a Little Irish O'Leary got was we were coming out of Center Stage Theater in Atlanta and coming right out of the parking deck, Arn and Ric Flair were coming. And I was excited to see Flair, but there was something about Arn Anderson. I just always related to Arn. I loved him. And I was like, oh my God, it's Arn Anderson and Ric Flair. Oh my God, it's Arn Anderson. I just kept saying it over and over and over again because it was so, you would see Flair a lot, but then you wouldn't see Arn that often. And it was so cool to see him.
All right. JB?
My next one is probably one of the sadder stories for me is Jake Roberts.
Oh.
Instead of being remembered as a Hall of Fame great, he's going to be remembered for the demons that he battled.
Yep.
Which, cut his career short. One of the best talkers in the business. I still think to this day he has a lot to offer the business. Now that he's gotten his life together.
Yeah, he should be at the Performance Center.
I just think, the fact that he couldn't handle his demons, he's going to be remembered as a cautionary tale, basically, for the ways of the business.
Yeah.
He never really reached his full potential because he was in and out of the company all the time. Never was I don't remember him being a champion. Maybe he was, but I don't recall him ever winning a major singles title back in the heyday.
I think he won. I don't think he ever did. Actually.
I don't think he ever won a title. And it probably had something to do with the fact they couldn't trust him.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think he ever won an Intercontinental.
No.
He never beat
I know he fought Rick Rude for it.
Honky Tonk for it.
Honky Tonk. I don't think he ever won a singles title.
Yeah.
But to me, that character, it was one of the larger than life characters at that time. It was baffling because I was like, why isn't this guy getting, championship matches? Why is he in the mid card? He's fighting Undertaker. He's fighting all the greats, but they're not pulling the trigger on him winning anything. And I couldn't figure it out at the time. Obviously, I didn't know what he was going through personally.
Yeah.
As I read and gotten older and figured out what was going on with him, it's sad that his career, that showed so much promise, never really got to where it could have been.
I agree. Totally agree.
All right.
All right. Well,
Irish?
while we're still on a down note, I'll go ahead and say mine. Chris Kanyon.
Oh, man.
Oh.
I'll tell you why. We joked, I think before we started recording, we were like, who bet in Canyon? When he was in WCW, he was wrestling under a mask. Remember the name?
It was Kronos.
Mask.
No, he fought Glacier.
Yeah.
Oh crap,
Mortis.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
Mortis.
Yep,
That's right.
Which is kind of weird. I never really got into Mortis, but he was around all the time, and he had some pretty innovative offense. And then Mortis took off the mask, and he was Chris Kanyon. Who bet on Kanyon? And the thing about Chris Kanyon is you don't realize his impact. Well, you didn't realize his impact until after he passed away. Like, we watched the whole No Holds Barred. Was it No Holds Barred, the movie?
Yeah.
Yep. Hulk Hogan.
He did all the... No, not Hulk Hogan.
Behind the Ring. Are you talking about
the WCW movie with David
it wasn't No
Arquette.
Holds Barred, was it?
Beyond
the Mat or something?
No, Beyond the Mat's a documentary. The one
I'm
with...
confused.
Oh my God, David Arquette. And
the dude from Hawaii Five-0.
I know. I know
DDP played the villain.
King of the Ring, whatever it was called. It was a crap movie, but you have to watch it because it's full of WCW cameos. But anyway, he's the one who basically, did all the wrestling choreography for that and did all the training for the guys. And the thing about Chris Kanyon is when they came over to WWF, to check this out, he in 1998, I had to look this up. He won. He was ranked number 108 in the top 500 best wrestlers for that year. I mean, that's just crazy that he would be on a PWI list and he was a nobody in WCW. World Championship Wrestling, he was a tag team champion, and then WWF, he was a U.S. champion and WWF tag champion. Care to guess? He had two partners.
Tag champion.
Tag champion with two partners. They did
Jericho?
Freebird Rule. Nope.
Is Jericho no?
Raven?
Nope.
I have no idea.
Diamond Dallas Page.
Okay.
And Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh.
Bam Bam Bigelow. I forgot he was in WCW.
The WWF.
WWF.
Can you? I don't remember.
Yeah. It's right after the invasion angle.
Oh, that's right.
So he never ever really lived up. Yeah, he won some championships, but he never really got over to the degree of his talent.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of things that he was struggling with.
Yeah, definitely. He had a depression issue.
Oh, he committed suicide.
Well, I mean, but it was, people within the industry said, obviously that held him back.
Well,
because there would be times where, he couldn't come on camera because he was like so out of it. They had to pull him off TV, and they never knew like what mood. Some days he was great,
right?
Other days he couldn't go out there.
Well, and he was hiding a secret that he wouldn't tell anybody, and and Derry says that affected him too. Is that
he couldn't be himself.
He couldn't come out he couldn't come out of the closet, and when he finally came out, it was after he left the industry, and he said if he'd come out earlier, it would probably help his career. Not, because he wouldn't release, and they said that was a lot of his frustration was he couldn't be himself.
Yeah.
He couldn't do the things he wanted to do because he was afraid to.
Yeah, super talented guy.
He was.
He would come up with very innovative offense.
Very charismatic.
And I was doing some quick research. You know one of the people who trained him?
Who?
Fabulous Moolah.
There you go.
I was like,
really?
Holy crap. Yeah, I was like, really?
Interesting.
So yeah, I would think, Kanyon is one of those guys that I really liked that never lived up to his fullest potential.
All right. So.
All right.
Hey. So one of the guys, actually, it's funny. You just mentioned my next guy.
Diamond Dallas Page.
No, is
Bam Bam Bigelow?
Bam Bam Bigelow.
I already talked about Chris Kanyon, so
yeah, it's Bam Bam Bigelow. He had tons of potential, a great look. How many guys have tattooed heads? Flaming tattooed heads.
Not enough.
But he was what the big guys are now. Back in the 80s and 90s, is he was a very agile 300-pounder. He would go off the top rope. He could do drop kicks. He could do a lot of things that a guy that size weren't supposed to do, which the guys that size do now on a regular basis.
Right.
But he had the look. He had the great flame tights, and he just sort of never got over in a way that made me excited. He never won a title. He was also a victim of the Hogan years where, three guys held belts and that was it.
His career was over when he lost to Lawrence Taylor.
And that was the problem.
That was the beginning of the end for him, in my opinion, because he just never recovered from that. Like people really wasn't taking him seriously at that point.
Because it was a joke.
You lost your sense of, your, for lack of a better word, being a beast. You know what I mean? Like you were this monster heel. And then you lose to Lawrence Taylor in a match. And it was like, well, damn, you can't beat a football player. So like, you know, this was back when kayfabe was alive and kicking, you know what I mean? So it was like, you know, you lost to him and he lost all credibility and he never recovered.
Yeah. He was one of the person as a kid, I was like watching, like when he came out, it was always fun.
It was,
but he looked fun. He looked interesting.
He was a very unique character, something that you hadn't seen before.
Yeah. And again, it's the prototypical. He was a big guy, but he didn't wrestle like a big guy.
Yeah, because he was really agile.
No, he was very agile.
Yeah,
he did drop kicks.
He could move really well for his size, and he didn't talk a lot though.
No,
that's. I guess they knew.
And he should have been paired up with like either a Jimmy Hart or a Bobby Heenan or something like that.
Yeah.
So, all right, JB, who's your next one?
I'm gonna go with Mr. MVP himself,
Montavious
Vontel
Porter.
He had one of the best debuts that I can remember. I remember I had high hopes for him. He had the charisma.
Oh yeah.
You know, he was good in the ring.
He could talk.
And I was like, wow, this guy might actually get a chance to break the glass ceiling in WWE. You know, he actually, you know who his best friend was?
MVP?
Yeah. His mentor, actually. Got him into wrestling. We've already discussed him.
Nope.
Chris Benoit.
Whoops.
Feuded with him. Had great matches together.
I do remember that. Yeah.
He was a Intercontinental U.S. champion, I believe. I don't know if he won Intercontinental, but I felt like he was on the fast track to doing some big things. I didn't know, if they would pull the trigger, making him the champion, because we know how that story goes. But
that's because he didn't dance enough.
Yeah, and so, but I thought he had potential to have a long career.
Yeah.
Couple title runs, because there was nothing really lacking from his game. He had all the
he had the look. Tools. He had the tools.
He had all the tools that he
all
needed.
The charisma you could want.
Yeah. So they, for whatever reason, I don't know if I think he got burned out really quickly and realized they weren't going to push him, and he kind of like just went on his way. But that's one that I thought had a lot of potential that never really materialized.
Yeah.
All right, Irish.
My guy, I've got two more guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do more, but my guy is going to come out of nowhere.
Okay.
Randy. No, I'm kidding.
RKO.
Shane Douglas.
That is a good one.
Shane Douglas, the franchise. Shane Douglas.
You know what he's doing now?
Yeah, he's wrestling in a gymnasium locker room somewhere.
He actually, I kid you not, he was like a security guard for Walmart at one point.
Oh, that's so sad.
Like within the past 5 years. I'm like, how do you go from that to that?
He's still wrestling.
No, yeah.
But, okay, so Shane Douglas is kind of like your prototypical journeyman wrestler. Started traveling all over the place. Then he hooked up with this East Coast Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
And
ECW made him a star.
Then they changed over to ECW and he became the star. And that's when his star started to rise. I hate to use that phrase again, but that's when he started to gain popularity because they came unhinged. I remember an interview where he was talking about that night where they trashed the ECW belt and it became the Extreme Championship Wrestling, and he started dropping F-bombs and all that stuff and totally changed over. And he said I remember I called my dad and said, Dad, I'm getting ready to do something really big, but it's scary, and I forgot how much of a risk that was because nobody knew what was going to happen with ECW.
Yeah.
Nope.
But he carried that company for a long time and he never got over to the same degree. Because I think he was in WCW. I know he was in WWE. And then he did the WWE's version of ECW.
He was a professor, right? In WWE, he came into the professor or something like that.
Something like that. And then he was in TNA.
Yeah.
I remember, never forget the match. He was wrestling. He was in TNA. And he had the stomach flu or some kind of flu. And he puked right in the middle of the ring twice.
Did he really?
Oh, it was horrible. It was hard to watch. I'm like, dude is sick. You shouldn't be wrestling.
Yeah.
And he just never really. I know Podcast Kitty. It's gross.
Yeah, it's bad.
It was really hard for me to watch because I really loved. I mean, I hated him as a character. You know,
Yeah.
like I hated because he was a heel, and I wanted to hate him. But he really did have it all in ECW, and never really got Podcast Kitty. It's my turn to talk.
I've been talking all night.
You tell Two Paws to kiss off.
Two Paws.
But he never really ascended to the heights that he probably should have been. But you know, it might have been. I mean, the ECW guys weren't necessarily known for their prolific wrestling skills.
Yeah.
But there's very few people better on the mic than Shane.
I didn't really watch ECW back that much. I remember him vaguely from when he came to WCW and his forgettable WWE run.
Oh yeah.
From what I remember, yeah, like you said, he was a great talker. I do remember that he had the look actually too, like the ex-jock, you know, football player.
Oh yeah.
Size and everything.
I was a band nerd, so I hated him anyway.
So he had that arrogant look that he definitely could have been a great heel, but I don't too much remember his ECW days.
Well, the thing is he was always trying to get rub off of Sting and trying to get a lot of rub off of Flair because that was really that was a stalwart franchise players, and he was like, I'm the franchise.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're a top guy in a very, very small wrestling organization that's basically run out of somebody's bedroom and
bingo
basement.
hall. Bingo halls.
And a bingo hall. But I would say one of the people that did not live up to his fullest potential is definitely Mr. Douglas.
One of mine, I got two more.
All right.
So
we'll keep going.
We'll do two more rounds. I got two more. The sad thing about this is the guy I'm going to mention is involved in one of the greatest matches in WWE history. It's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Oh, man.
Really? Yeah, I would totally agree with you.
He is in, if not the greatest, one of the top 3 or 4 greatest matches of all time with Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3. But due to supposedly backstage politics and his ego and Vince's ego and a lot of things, never lived
he
up.
had an ego.
Yeah, supposedly.
Really?
Supposedly it was. I've heard it's both ways. Like Vince wanted certain things, he wanted certain things, and they just couldn't come together to the point where they took the belt off him after 2 months. You know, he only had the Intercontinental belt for 2 months, and that was it. And then he sat on with that horrible dragon gimmick for a while. But a guy that if you look at him, if you put him in the ring, you look at him and you go, that's a star. You know, he could talk, he could move, he looked the part, he had everything he needed, all the skill sets possible. And it never clicked. His best matches were in NWA
with Flair. The best feud he had.
Yeah.
By him and Savage, and those are the two best feuds.
Yeah.
I don't remember how great a talker he was.
He was good. He wasn't great. I'm not gonna say he was good. He wasn't great.
He was above average. I wouldn't say great from what I remember. But his matches, like in the ring, he definitely is a top 10 talent.
Yeah.
All time in that ring. He made an arm drag look great.
Oh yeah.
Arm bar.
Like just a simple move like that, he just made it look like effortless.
Yeah.
He made it look, believable.
Yeah. And that's when you start asking questions like, why didn't you do better?
Yeah.
You know, and when I was a kid and I didn't know what I didn't know what we know now. I had a hard time with Ricky because it was like he was like the poor man's Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah.
You know?
It kind of felt like it.
It felt very much like, oh, I like Jimmy Snuka. Why don't you like this guy? But I knowing what I know now, I appreciate him a whole lot more.
Yeah.
But even when he comes out, he's still doing the whole "I love you" thing, and I'm like, Snuka did it.
Yeah,
Snuka did it. He's probably I can't say that. I'm not going to say that. I don't want to get sued. But yeah, no.
But yeah, it just he had potential everywhere.
Oh yeah, totally. Bags and bags of it.
Yeah, and it just egos and fights and just never fruition. And he stayed with the company for a long time. That's the thing is, the sad thing about him is he didn't leave. He just kept signing contracts to stay, so he knew he wasn't going anywhere.
Because they knew what he could do in the ring.
Yeah.
I just don't think once you're, especially you can imagine what Vince was like back then if you had an ego.
Jesus
like
Christ.
There's no way you're winning that battle.
No.
You know what I mean?
You're
so
gonna
it's
lose
like
every time.
once you lose, you're done.
Yeah.
And he's trying to mark his territory. So he's like, well, this is my way or the highway.
And there's nowhere else to go.
But the thing is, he had competition back then. So Vince will keep him around.
True.
But I'm going to make sure you're not a star.
Right.
So if you ever leave, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
So like he kept him around because he knew his talent. So he had to keep him.
Right.
But at the same time, he didn't have to push him. So
What's your next one, JB?
I'm going to go with Mr. Kennedy.
God dang it. Son of a gun. I got to
know
go
what?
look
When
up
this
somebody
guy-
else. That was my next one.
When this guy debuted and the microphone dropped from the ring, he had
Mr.
the spotlight. Like, I'm like, damn, this dude was good on the mic. He fought. He had a.
Hang on one second.
Yeah, that was,
Did you ever see his entrance? Yeah. It wasn't even close to that, bro. You've got to stop doing cold meds before you get on this damn podcast. Please continue.
It's a summer
Good
of-
old JB.
It's a cold and fluffy.
That's right.
Cold and fluffy. He just made the snide.
I remember he had feuds with the Undertaker, Batista, if I'm not mistaken.
And he was anointed too.
I thought they loved his microphone work, and so I thought this was all you need at that time. This was like was it the tail end of the Attitude Era?
yeah.
It was kind of like they pretty much were gone, but he was still like, they still were looking for guys that were a little over the top. So he came in, he could talk with the best of them. I'm like, that's all you need at this point. He was, I wouldn't say he was great, but he was decent in the ring. I figured he'd at least be around for a good 10 years.
Yeah.
His mistake was pissing off Triple H. And that ultimately led for him being banished from WWE and never recovered. He was either Randy Orton or Triple H. I can't remember who it was, but he pissed him off. And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
He
gone.
said something backstage.
gone.
He said something backstage and got him in a doghouse. And they ran him out of there like the next month. Like literally he was gone. And obviously never came back. So
No, he went to TNA and disappeared.
yeah. He had a reputation for rubbing people the wrong way.
You are correct.
Wearing out his welcome
Yep.
very
Yes.
quickly. So unfortunately for him, he was kind of led to his own demise.
Yep.
Right.
You know what he's doing nowadays?
What?
He and Davari opened up a wrestling school.
Oh, all right.
Sweet.
He was in
not
the
bad
Aces
people
and
to learn
Eights,
from.
wasn't he? I remember him.
Yeah, he was a vice
I think
president.
that was the last time I watched
Yeah.
TNA.
Aces and Eights.
Yeah.
All right, Irish, who you got?
Damian Sandow.
Oh man, that was a good one.
You talk about a dude that could make crap look good. I mean, he basically carried the Miz for a while.
Oh, the stunt double gimmick was one of the greatest things.
And it
ever.
wasn't when Miz was really doing his best. I mean, I
Nope.
think I'll go ahead and say this. I'm wondering how much of Sandow rubbed off on the Miz, because after Sandow left,
Miz got better.
Miz got better.
Yeah.
But all that being said, Sandow was saddled with that crazy gimmick of every day I'm going to come in and do like, Abraham Lincoln Dow.
Yeah.
Oh my god. it
And
was
he
so
would do
horrible.
those things. And then he was always mimicking somebody, but had pretty decent, solid matches.
Yeah.
And then when he was the stunt double was probably the height of his popularity.
Yes.
And then he got the Future Endeavor and he went over to TNA and was an incredibly hot property for about 2 weeks.
Yep. And then
2
fell off
weeks.
course.
And then gone.
They put
Yep.
that crap gimmick on him.
Yeah. Again, he's a far better wrestler than his gimmicks would.
He has a great footnote in history though. He's the first person to ever turn in the Money in the Bank contract and lose. Bicinos came
Yep.
after. He
Yep.
was the first to turn in his contract and not win the belt.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but it's him and Cena the only two that have done it so far and not won. So that's interesting.
That happened here. Matter of fact, I was there when it
Baron
happened.
Corbin did it.
Oh, Baron Corbin. Okay, 3. I'm
I
sorry.
was there
brother.
when it happened. It happened here.
But that he was the first. He will always be the first.
Yep.
And he had that leather one. That was the cool thing. He had a leather briefcase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he had super bag loads of talent. Obviously, he could wrestle. Pretty fairly decent mic skills but he just was never.
yeah.
The sad thing is the business soured him instead of usually, they sour on the business for politics or whatnot.
Right.
He was all in, on the wrestling industry, and they kind of gave up on him.
Right.
And now he's out of it and he's done with it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Which is
all right.
unfortunate.
So my last guy do one more round. My last guy is Raven. A guy that had in ECW was a god. Yeah. I mean, really helped push ECW over the top. And when he came to WCW or WWE, just never quite got on. I mean, he was better in WCW than he was in WWE. When he had Raven's Flock in WCW, he had Kidman.
That was his
and
peak.
Sick Boy. That was his peak.
Yeah.
He was so good.
He was
great in the ring. He was good on the mic. And I just always thought he had potential. And I always enjoyed watching him.
He's kind of like an original Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. And a guy that came
entrance.
And a guy that overcame some horrible gimmicks to start with, but turned into just something, but just never really got anywhere.
Because it was
always stuck in the middle.
For him, well, the fact that he came up in WCW at the wrong time, because it was towards the end, and it was all political. If you didn't have the big name, you weren't going to get a shot. He was great on the microphone and good in the ring.
He made Billy Kidman interesting.
Seriously.
It's hard to do.
And then he had a, forgettable WWE run as well. I liked Raven. I'm trying to think of some of his bigger feuds in WCW, but
yeah, he was around for a while.
I never saw him as a main event world champion.
No, but I always saw him as a multiple-time intercontinental.
Like a U.S. title, a solid, 5 to 10 year career.
Yeah, definitely.
And the same thing happened to him. He soured on the business, not the other way around.
He went to TNA for a long time. He was at TNA for quite a bit.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was quite a bit. Yeah, no, even before the end, he was there when TNA was probably at its height. He was there because that's when he was having his Clockwork Orange matches with Abyss and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And he could still perform. I remember going to those matches when I used to go to TNA here in Orlando. And those were some great matches, or the Chamber of Horror matches he had. He had a couple really good ones there. So
he has a show now, a podcast, right?
I'm not sure. Does he?
I think he does. Oh. Yeah.
What's it called?
It's his name, Scott Demore or whatever his name is.
Or Scott Levy.
Oh yeah.
It's
the Raven show.
He has his own. He has his own podcast.
Listen to that. All right, JB, last one.
My last one is a guy that, to be honest with you, I forgot about until we started the show. Was Chris Masters. A guy who came in WWE around 2005. He's another Lex Luger clone in my mind. He had the look. I remember specifically a pay-per-view. He had a match, a feud with Shawn Michaels, and he looked good. It wasn't a city. I think it was Unforgiven 2005, and it wasn't one of those situations where Shawn Michaels was carrying him. Like if you watch the match, like he put on a damn good, like he looked like he belonged. And so, when he came on the scene and he had the entrance with the pyros and everything, the big elaborate entrance, and he was like 5% body fat. I'm like, oh, this guy's they're gonna push him to the moon. I think he failed a test, and that's what led to his downfall. He got popped for PED or something back then. And he never really recovered from that. But when he debuted, and like I said, when they throw you into a feud with Shawn Michaels, like early in your career,
right?
They see something in you, and they want to see what you got. And he delivered in that match, and I thought he was going to be pushed to the moon, and it just never materialized. After that drug test failed.
Yeah. All right. Irish, your last one.
I got a couple, but I think I'm going to go to one of the biggest busts in WWE.
And he went to TNA for a while, if I'm not mistaken, too. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about one of the ladies.
Oh.
She started off in TNA, did really, really well.
Oh, I know who you're going with.
WWE brought her over.
Oh,
she's only around for like a couple weeks.
Sad.
Awesome Kong.
Yeah. Karma. Awesome Kong.
Awesome Kong.
Amazing Kong.
Yeah. She's currently in the Netflix series, and she's phenomenal.
In Glow? Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing in that. But I remember her in TNA, and she was just like, holy crap. She was awesome.
Yeah.
Kong. She was really, truly good. She was Karma over there. No, she was Awesome Kong.
She was Awesome Kong.
Yeah. She's Awesome Kong there. And then they brought her over and gave her this Karma thing. And then I just remember the last time we saw her, she was in the middle of the ring just crying. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And it
was that in TNA or WWE?
That was in WWE.
Yeah, she never after she
had
left
a
WWE.
breakdown.
Yeah, after she left WWE, she was done. She never wrestled again.
She came back for a Royal Rumble.
Oh,
She did. She
she
came back. She came back for a Royal Rumble. We'll get our stat man Fluffy over here to fact check it.
Royal Rumble.
Yeah. No, she was in the Royal Rumble.
I remember she was sitting in the ring and she was crying, and I think it was kayfabe crying, but she was taking time off because she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And
I heard she had like
issues.
She was like like bipolar or something.
Yeah,
like,
issues.
She had like a breakdown or something.
Yeah, she did not do well.
But she was so over in WWE.
Oh, she was over in TNA. She
Clearly she was over there. But like for the short time, she was like they built her up where she was getting more pops than some of the guys were.
Yeah.
Actually, after she left, she went to the indie circuit for a while. Then she went back to TNA for a little while, and then she walked away.
Yeah.
So, but she was huge.
She had a lot of potential.
Yeah, I just remember her. I was so excited when I heard she was coming over from TNA because there weren't few of those that moved that way.
And honestly, I thought, now that I think about it, her popularity at the end, even like I said, it was short, but the fact that the fans got behind her, that opened the door for Nia Jax and people like that.
Oh yeah,
Tamina Snuka to come in and get an opportunity, because before her, they all looked like models. You know what I mean? So she came in as this monster female wrestler, and they were like, this had never been done before, and she was over like hell. And then, unfortunately, she wasn't around long enough, but she opened a lot of doors in a short period of time. She was there.
But I agree. She should have been a multiple time women's champion.
Yeah, but she never lived out the potential.
No,
she was never going to be a diva.
No,
that was the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got that. That was my one.
That was a good one.
I had Kennedy locked and loaded, and you picked it. It's like, crap! I
Hope I did it justice.
You did. You did better than I would have done.
Well, those are and there's so many more. I mean, there's Lance Storm and God, there's so many guys out there that you could talk about.
Lance Storm, and we're not even talking about guys who are currently wrestling.
Sid Vicious.
Sid Vicious.
Sid Vicious.
My God.
Let's see. The
name.
Sid. Oh,
Billy Kidman.
Honorable mentions here.
Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Yep. Marty Jannetty.
Yep.
I'm serious.
His own doing.
No, totally,
he was supposed to be the guy. It wasn't supposed to be Shawn Michaels. It was supposed to be Jannetty.
Yeah. And it
Brutus
wasn't
Beefcake. I mean, just the guys, you start going down the list, you're just like, oh my God.
You've got so many guys, and there's some girls here. And I was tossing back and forth between, I had two women in my mind, and I was afraid to say the one because I think that she's kind of redeemed herself a little bit over in TNA.
Who?
Gail Kim.
Yeah.
Gail never really ascended to the height that she needed to, and she did things for the WWE she didn't need to do.
Yeah.
And it ruined her.
She was loyal to them.
She was
hoping that they would change their opinion of her,
and they didn't.
And they never did.
And she was super talented.
I love the way she left, though.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
To this day, I love it. She's eliminated herself from the Royal Rumble and peaced out.
Yep. I like Gail Kim a lot. I liked her a whole bunch when she was in WWE. I liked her okay when she was in TNA. I was flipping channels and I saw her on TV the other day. I'm like, hey, you're still around?
Oh yeah, she's still around.
So,
Well, I would like to thank Trader Joe's for your sour Framboise.
Don't you dare be sour.
It's a good sour. I liked it a lot.
He gone.
Yeah, if you want to go to Trader Joe's and find it's a nice big bottle, you can share it with friends. It's really, really good. It's sour, but it's really, really good.
It's really sour, but it's good.
But I enjoyed the hell out of it. When you're ready to put your beer down.
Beer, you're so dumb. You don't even live up to your full potential.
Make sure you head over to vintagepressing.com. Vintagepressing.com, where you can get drink coasters, luggage tags, phone cases, and more.
Make sure that you visit us over at facebook.com/beers and Body Slams podcast. You can check out all of our latest posts. You can check out some of our show links and some other things we do there. And make sure that you come over to beersandbodyslams.com and check out all of our show archives, our blog posts, and even click on all of our great sponsors. They take great care of us. They'll take great care of you.
You can follow us on Untappd. You can figure out what we're drinking, recommend nice beers for us to try. You can follow me as I put my liver in a torture rack at Good OLJB.
You can follow me as my liver lives to its full potential, which I'm not sure how much lag it has left at Mr. Fluffy.
And you can watch me as I put my liver in the master lock at the Irish O'Leary.
On a side note, real quick, I sent you guys a screenshot of the untapped God that I came across this weekend.
Yes, like 2,000.
Like 2,500
That's
beers.
impressive.
Making
like,
Fluffy his bitch is what
I know.
It's like, oh my God.
I didn't front. If you did, I said, I go, I bow.
Oh my God, that was awesome.
That's awesome. So make sure you tune in on Thursday. We're going to talk about Raw, SmackDown, and we're going to pick Hell in the Cell. Raw.
And the graphic for the Hell in the Cell thing, the animated graphic where
I love it.
I was like, whoa.
I like that when he pulls the head out.
Yeah.
I'm ready to skull F you right there.
I know. Wow, that was a little.
I went there.
There's only one Hell in a Cell match, though, right?
Nope.
No, it's
two.
two.
There's two now.
There's two now. Yeah, there's two. There's the Shane and KO and the tag team. So
There'll be a third one.
and then we'll be back
The
on
whole
Monday
damn
to
card
have
should be a Hell in a Cell.
something about a topic. We'll figure it out as we go. As always, make sure you keep your pint glasses full and your body slam stiff.
You've been listening to the Beers and Body Slams podcast. Find us online at beersandbodyslams.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/Beers and Body Slams podcast. Until next time.
Have a nice day.